What up, what up? Welcome to FIFO, Flow In, Flow Out. My boy Sam Nang, co-host Danny Marawinski here. And just a quick recap, this whole thing started because Sam Nang and I both share content online relevant to personal development. We knew each other way back in high school, hadn't talked in over 20 years, got together for a quick call. Next episode, Sam Nang's like, why don't you hit record? And thus we started this podcast. So very ad hoc, very authentic, very real. And we are now at episode 10. And today we are talking about people of influence that we personally don't know. So, Sam Nang, why don't you jump right on in?
All right, Danny, as always, top-notch introduction, and I'm so impressed. He's gonna be I told him he's gonna be future co-host of the American Idol.
American Idol. All right.
American Idol, the next Ryan Seacrest.
Oh God, don't make nope. Don't compare me to Ryan. I don't want to be no Ryan Seacrest.
Okay. You pick your hero and you tell me, and then I'll put it in the air. I'll put it in the
I'm gonna be Danny motherfucking Marawinski.
yeah. You're gonna be the next Danny Marolinski.
That's it, bro.
We're gonna get you to the 2.0 version.
That's
That next level. That's what we're
that's it.
doing. Excellent. We're talking about Stoicism. Or no. We're not talking about Stoicism. Sorry.
No, I got you all spun up on it.
Yeah. We were we're talking about influencers that we have never met that have a big influence on our lives, which is interesting because I have a lot of them. I have people that I have never like met in my life personally or like personally knew them, but they have been a big influence on my life by reading books, watching their movies or their documentaries, and then just by learning from them. And now that the internet is out, there's so much more information out there, like podcasting and Instagram and websites. So information is really easy to get. So we're gonna talk about some of our favorite ones.
And I'm
And
gonna I'm gonna actually throw in a curveball a little bit to this, but not only people that when we say influence, let's just define that real quick so that way the audience also understands too. We're not talking about people that we just read their books and we liked what they had to say. I mean like people that we've read their or consumed their content and then applied that to our lives and actually made it into an action. And I think that there's a big difference, right? Of just reading all the books that are ever out there and then never launching, never starting, never doing anything.
yeah,
So when we say influence, it's the things that we've consumed and then actually applied those teachings to our life to move it forward. So
yeah. I mean, that's a good point. I mean, not everybody is a person of influence. Everybody has something to say, which is good. Sometimes it doesn't resonate. Some people's message doesn't resonate with me, and but they're not like a bad person or like I wouldn't ever say like don't listen to that person. It just doesn't resonate. Like I know Oprah Winfrey is like in the personal development field. She's like queen, but I can't consume her content. But I know she's a great person and she's doing great things for the world. I just can't consume her content. Um, but I think leading into the next or to like the conversation is Danny was asking me since I study a lot of philosophy and kind of embody a lot of philosophy. I have a Zen background and I also have a Stoic background as well too that I use to kind of balance things because and Stoicism is a great philosophy, and all it is a philosophy. A philosophy is just to help you think a little bit better than what you currently are. So if you're having problems of having like a thought process, Stoicism will help you. So the person that we were discussing a little bit before the podcast was a gentleman named Ryan Holiday, and he's an author, and we were talking about Marcus Aurelius, and Marcus Aurelius' Meditations is a very popular book in Stoicism. It's almost like the Bible in Stoicism. Uh, but the thing is, if you try to read it, it's almost in a different language. So I
well, it
felt
was.
it was right. So
Yeah.
when you read it, you're like, how I don't know how to understand it. And I thought I was dumb when I first read it. I was like, shit, everybody's reading meditations and I can't understand it. But it's almost in a different language. And then you also need people to interpret it or translate it. And that's what Ryan Holiday does. He's a translator of what all the Stoics have their philosophy is, and then he puts it in a book and translate it into like modern English terms. But when you read his or when you listen to his Audible, he really actually embodies a stoic. So he reads it very stoically. It's not like he gets excited or like low tone. It's almost the same way, and it helps you. Like if you're reading it, to me, is like when I read philosophy, the purpose of for me is to embody it. I don't need to be able to spit lines or quotes or anything, because if I'm embodying it, I could translate it. Right? Basically, I'm translating what Stoicism is about.
Well, let's start. I mean, I just finished Meditations from Marcus Aurelius, right? And I agree. Like I did on an audiobook, so I got the Penguin version, or Penguin's the publisher. So it's very monotone, very dry. And I read the bulk of the book on a 4 hour, 5 hour drive. I just let it play the whole time.
Yeah,
It got to the point that honestly, by the end of the drive, I was like, I need to take a break, because
yeah.
it's a lot for your
Dense,
mind to
right?
process.
Yeah,
But I'll say that. So let me kind of like talk about how Marcus Aurelius has influenced my life
yeah.
real quick, and how I even came to start
Oh,
to find him
do
as
you
a.
want me to give the fans the bio of Marcus Aurelius? Because I did that, and I was like, I had that on top of my mind, so I could give
Yeah,
it.
go for it, dude.
Okay. So Marcus Aurelius is a Roman emperor, uh, and he was a philosopher. Basically, he ruled the greatest land, or pretty much the known world, Rome, at that time. So he had a lot of power. He had the ability to get whatever he wanted: money, kill anybody, sleep with any woman, like have any woman, like. But he chose to have this life, and what he did, what meditations is basically just his journals, right? It's just interpretations of his journals, of his like thoughts and everything. So he's chose this lifestyle as an emperor to set an example for future people. And I don't think at that time he thought he was going to be like this great influence. He was just like an emperor doing what he believed was the right thing to do. And doing the right thing to do, like in Stoicism, is every day. Like you could choose, like you could apply it so much in everyday life. Like if you learn how to manage and govern yourself, you don't have to worry about not doing the wrong thing, right? So it's kind of a process of thinking, and it's very helpful for if you have a very stressful life, and to keep your thoughts kind of just straight in not too far up, not too far down. Even if you go, your emotions go up and down, don't base your decisions when you're in those emotional highs and lows. So you bring it down to like the regular level of like gratitude, and then that's when you start to make your important decisions, whether it be based on your like life or marriage. If you need to leave your job or you need to leave this relationship, you're not based out of emotion. It's based out of like reasoning and logic. But if there's too much reasoning and logic, you have to kind of balance it out. That's why I use a lot of Zen Buddhism and uh, uh, to kind of balance out just the stoic side. Because if you're too stoic, you could get kind of like you could miss stuff. I think I think you could just miss
Well,
stuff.
yeah, I think that's true for just about everything, right? Like that you don't overindulge. So it's not like, and then a lot of these things on that I've been reading on influence, there's parts of it. Like at the end of the day, I'm gathering up information and applying it to my life in such a way that it becomes more me, right? And that's the idea of influence. It's not that I drank the Kool-Aid and now this is the way that I am. It's more of things that are helping me in my life, right? And Marcus Aurelius, I just, like I said, I finished that book, and the reason why I gravitated to him was I had a my brother-in-law. This is years ago, before I was even would even consider picking up a philosophy book, right? And he told me about one of these quotes that's arguably from Marcus, but we believe it is. It's the key to all victory lies in the organization of the non-obvious, and that has stuck with me throughout my, like, for the last 5 years of my life since it was told to me. And when I think about marketing, when I think about what I do with work, when I think about all these aspects, um, that's what I'm looking at, right? I'm looking at the non-obvious things, the things that are not right in front of our nose, and how do we organize those things to generate an impact to win. And so that's what kind of turned me on to them.
I like
And
that
then
concept.
yeah, it's a good one, man. And then that's when I led me to meditation. So like where I'm at, I finished meditations. I started reading the last two books. He breaks it up into 12 books. But
Yeah,
and again, to your point, it's like almost quote by quote. It's not really like a story. It is a story
yeah.
if like you read deeper into it, but it's more like quotes and
You
ideas,
just kind
right?
of pick it apart one at a time and then actually like meditate on it. I think I was trying to read it like a book. Was I was going? I think because I read the Bible like that too. I read the Bible like it was like a book, and I was like, this shit don't make fucking sense.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not like it's one of those that like you get the little nuggets, right, that it delivers over and
Yeah.
over. And and then there's like little things that I pick up on that I can apply in my daily life. And that's what I've been doing. And that's what led me to what I'm reading now currently. I'm only like one chapter in, but that's
Yeah.
what's his face? Holiday that we mentioned. Ryan
Okay.
Holiday. So Discipline and is Destiny.
Yeah.
So he puts like more of a storyline to it, right? Like kind of
Yeah.
like what you're saying. So
He writes a good
you know, and
story.
this is like an interesting thing about the rabbit hole of influence. So it started for me with just this path that I'm on with stoicism that now it's very interesting to me with a quote that I've literally used and applied in my business to grow business, to execute on business. I've used it to win business. I've used it to influence in business. But that quote of the key to all victory lies in the organization of the non-obvious.
Hmm.
That's what ended up eventually leading me to Marcus Aurelius. And as I've gone through my kind of personal development journey in the last 7 months, I've realized that I'm already practicing stoic type behaviors, but
Yeah.
I wasn't able to put a name to them or a label until I got into it a little bit more. And I'm like, oh, this is like stoicism.
Yeah.
Interesting. So that's what brought me to Marcus Aurelius. And now I'm into Ryan Holiday because I'm like, okay, I want more kind of meat and potatoes and practicality to what I just listened to in meditations.
Yeah,
So
that's how it
that's
is.
my
That is the rabbit hole, and that's how you get good book recommendations. Because, so if you like Mark Ryan Holiday, and this is I don't just make book recommendations and everything, but you gave me a little bit of context of like what type of authors and people do you like as well too, and then um, you had a question for me. Maybe you could ask. You asked
yeah.
me what it was
So
about stoicism.
yeah, so this is a quote by Marcus Aurelius. It's from Meditations. It's one that stuck out to me that I thought was interesting and I thought was hyper relevant to the stuff that you and I both share and talk about, but it's even more so for you. Well, I guess it's pretty relevant for me too in my line of work,
Yeah.
but for you in being a coach, which is Marcus Aurelius has a quote. It's a one liner in Meditations, and it says, "Teach or tolerate." And I
Yeah.
thought that that really stuck out to me because it's fascinating. And if you peel that back, right, and it makes sense. So you're either teaching, in other words, teaching the world, influencing the world, or you're tolerating whatever the world's teaching you, right? And and I thought it was a really interesting way because I don't think that we often would look at like those of us out there that are may be lifelong learners and listeners, and they may never post a single thing, they may never teach a single thing or try not to, right? I don't think that they would look at themselves as like, well, I tolerate, right? It's like that's an interesting word, but there's so much when I think about. I mean, I think this is just obvious for anybody. If you look at what's going on in the world today in 2024, both sides of political, and not to go political, but like both sides of political parties, election year, all sorts of things that are happening, wars, there's this whole thing on
Yeah.
different rights and transgenders and all of this stuff out there in the media world, right? And teach or tolerate. I know of a lot of people that don't teach and also don't want to tolerate. They complain
No.
a lot
Yeah.
about the world, but they don't really make a change or make an impact. They're just there to complain. So it's like, I think for those people, when I think about teach or tolerate, it's like, well, if you're not making an action, then you're tolerating. Whether you're complaining or not, you're still tolerating. And I just thought it was interesting. So,
Yeah,
um,
super interesting.
anyways, I want to bring it up with you because I think that there's a point. We see it also in the guru space, right? Where you have these, especially like these younger kids or whatever, that have never really done this stuff, never really actually
They
been a
haven't got the
coach.
trauma.
Yeah, right. They're like
They haven't got the
they figured
depression.
they figured out how to make a course. They figured out how to make a funnel. They can make some money doing it.
Yeah,
My favorite is always like, I got the keys to making all the money online, but you have
it's
to take my
seven-figure
course.
biz. The sign up, Billa.
Yeah, like, if that's the case, why are you selling a course? You're
I got
20 years old. You haven't made all the money in the world yet.
all right.
Um, but that's where I think it's like, so at what point can you start teaching, and how do you do that versus tolerate? Because I mean, I'll give the credit back to those self-proclaimed gurus. The one thing I'll give them credit on is at least they're given a fucking chance, right? And they're trying. They may not have figured it all out yet, and they might be like kind of a sham in a lot of ways. Not because they're a sham in the sense that they're not trying or they don't care, and they're just like a total scam. Like, I don't necessarily think that everybody out there is a scam. I think that they want to share.
Yeah,
They're a sham in the sense that they haven't done a lot of the work to be qualified to teach it. But that
I
teach
can
first
challenge that.
tolerate.
And
Yeah.
I could definitely challenge that. Yeah, I think that's kind of maybe it's a teaching moment of perspective as well too, because I've started. I didn't make the videos like that and everything, but at least I mean, like you said, they are putting themselves out there. If they sell a course, they
Yeah.
learn something. The idea is that from and its perception is wherever you're perceiving from, you could look at somebody's course as a scam, right? I used to take I went to take a Robert Kiyosaki course and went, and everybody said he was a fucking scam artist, and I was like, I took his course. It might have been overpriced at that time, right? I could have said that, but I did get a lot of from it, and I think I had paid like 5K, and this is like right out of college. I had like this type of stuff people normally don't do and we'll call it a scam. But looking back at it, I was like, okay, maybe I was young, but I did learn something. I did try to do something. I did try to build a business, right outside of college and stuff. But so I think some folks that are young, I don't think we should discourage anybody from even trying to sell it. I think just do it. It's eventually it's going to like good influence is going to weed itself out. I think, but
Yeah.
I think this teach or tolerate uh moment. I think there's a really good book that I think you might enjoy. Continue like if you like Ryan Holiday, you heard of Robert Greene, right? 48
Yeah.
Laws.
Yeah.
Yeah. He has a good one on human nature. I read this one and it's very underrated. All his books are really good. They're just like so well written. The stories are he has classic stories, he has modern stories, he has stories that apply to sports and like arts and everything. So he is like a phenomenal writer. But human nature is a good one because it teaches you how to recognize. I think this is what people need to learn is teach or tolerate, right? Okay, who's the person that we could teach as a mentor or a coach? If you can recognize who to teach, you're not wasting your time and then you're not getting frustrated with the world, right? Okay.
That's a good point.
Yeah, and then the people that you tolerate, there's always gonna be people that are gonna not be about this life. They're not about this life. They don't care about growth. They don't care about personal development. They don't care about eating healthy. Those you just have to kind of be like, they're there. You know what I'm saying? We don't need to get mad at them because getting mad at them or getting upset about, that eventually they might open their eyes. They might increase a little bit of awareness of like, hey, there's something a little bit more than just this rat race. You know what I'm saying? And then they might open their eyes. Our job as like coaches, mentors, or people that are trying to like teach and contribute back to the society is to help people, okay, where you're at, where your understanding of life is, we're gonna help you a little bit more. Or if you get influenced by this, right? Uh it might help you, and that makes us feel good. It generally, like,
Yeah.
when you're in this contribution. And the thing is, like, if you're ready to contribute, anybody could contribute. Anybody could teach. I read a good quote. I don't know who said it, but it was like, uh, "What's the qualifications to teach the third grade? You just need to be a fourth grader."
Yeah, it's true. And I
That's
think
it.
that's a good point, man. I really like that. That's a different perspective that I wasn't thinking about, right? And that's like when to teach versus tolerate. And I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, I think all of us, every single human being that's an adult, like, or even kids, right? I see it with my kids. Um, there's always a moment that you can teach, right? There's always a moment that you can mentor. And I think we do it a lot more than maybe we tell ourselves. And I think that there's also, especially in this age, right? There's the teachers in the traditional educational sense, and then there's the online teachers and the courses and the coaches and things like that. And I think that that's kind of where we pigeonhole that teachers. But at the same time, folks that, like even my friends that do complain about the world and like they are in that tolerate mode, even though like, that, and they're not really making an impact, they still teach in their own profession, right? They still mentor people that are up and coming and so on and so forth. So, in a lot of regard, I think we all do that to some degree. And that's where, I think it's interesting as far as if you're already doing, and this is always something that I make the connection on, right? Like if you're already doing that in your life, if there's somebody that you're mentoring, somebody that you're teaching, someone that you're grooming, right? But there's aspects of your life that you're not happy with that you want to grow on. And that's why like all the like, and I know you probably got some experience with this too, but that's why you gravitate towards people that you want to aspire towards, to have them start to mentor you, to help groom you and grow you in a direction that you want to go. And ultimately you start paying it forward, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's really the, I guess, the cycle of life. If you really think about it, the only thing we could pass on is just like wisdom and knowledge. The wisdom transcends over time, so that's like one of my past. Marcus Aurelius, the Buddha, they're a philosopher, right? There's nothing about worshiping them. It's about embodying what their philosophy is. So, and it holds true from now, from the past, and from the future as well too. It's wisdom. That's the big difference of, like, to me, I try to get through, like, when the bad stuff is happening, and Tony, Uncle Tony Robbins is like, look, at any moment in history, we had wars, we had sickness, we had you know political conflict, death, or all tragedies always throughout history. If you read history, it's always been there, right? And when he emphasized that, I was like, you're right. But there's also people that could still contribute and do stuff during these times where it feels like it's hard, right? That's why I think stoicism is on the rise right now, and the folks that are really practicing it and really, being vocal about it, they're gonna stand out because they're actually doing it. Some of the people that I think, like Andrew Huberman, is a good person that I love listening to. He's very stoic, but he's very scientific as well too. But he also has, the reason why I like him. He's very open minded, even though he's very, like, scientific. So he has some spiritual practices as well too, and he's been able to help me. So influencers and mentors kind of help you, kind of, how I use them is kind of just to validate my thoughts, you know. So if I have like a theory or an idea of like what God is, um, he could help me explain what I'm thinking and put it together. So that's why he is such a big influence, like, now. And he actually practices what he preaches, which is, like I said, coming back from like the first episode, I think we talk about good coaches or good mentors is like they actually practice what they do. Instead of actually just saying like theory, they could speak to an experience. Like for me now, is
Yep.
I can talk about being enlightened. Now I talk about experience. I don't talk about it's a theory. Before it was just a theory. I was like, I'm trying to figure it out. Now I could explain it, and I'm listening to people that understand like metaphysics and neuroscience to be able to explain it to my listeners or to whoever I want to share my message with. I believe that we have to have a little bit of science instead of just woo woo. It's like too much woo woo or too much science. You got to kind of be in the middle. So that's my philosophy. It's just a little woo. And like
Yeah,
all
no, it makes sense, man. And I think like kind of to continue to pull the thread on folks that I know that have influenced you, that have also influenced me. This is a more recent read that I had. I read both of his books, but the cool thing about this person is talking about practice what they preach. Like you can see it in real time what
yeah,
he's practicing, right? And that's Alex Hormozy. So I
yeah,
read $100 million offers and $100 million leads, and it's absolutely brilliant. Probably some of the best business books I've ever read. Um, I know Sam Nang, you're a part of his program right now. Yep. And it's hands down. Like there's been a lot of business books I've read, and some of them have been great. Some of them have been like subpar. But Alex Hormozy's message and style in those books, what's really interesting about them is if you actually consume his content, you realize that he is literally practicing the teachings of his book in real time right now.
yeah,
And that's so powerful, right? When you actually get to see it, like I did his book release for $100 million leads. I was on that webinar,
yeah,
and it's the one that he broke the internet, right?
yeah. You were
And he
telling me about
truly did, like he did on a Zoom call and had like over a quarter million people show up, and it crashed Zoom. The way that he,
I thought that was gonna happen when I launched Peak Performance Academy last year. I was like, "Yo, I'm gonna break the internet."
hey
Nobody
man,
signed up.
keep manifesting it. It'll happen, dude. It'll
Nobody
happen.
signed up. I mean, I started had like trafficking people in there.
It'll happen, man. It's one step at a time, right? But it was the interesting thing about like how he filled his stadium, right? And
Yeah,
how, or his virtual stadium, I should say, on this one, is he literally took the pages out of his book and applied it and grew the audience to then bring them on for his book launch, where he literally says, hey, you guys are all here because of the teachings I did in this book, and if you don't believe me, you can go audit me because I did it.
yeah, yeah,
And like and it's absolutely brilliant. So like that to me is, that's why like his message really stands out, and I really like how he goes about it. There are some things that he preaches about that maybe I don't resonate with as much, and I don't necessarily think is right for everybody. I mean, it's right for him and what he's doing, and like his whole thing is like he's documenting his journey on becoming a billionaire, right? Um, but it's fascinating to me to see to be able to see some of the great philosophers of our time and the ways that they're applying this stuff to their life and their business, but to be able to see it unfold in real time,
yeah,
that to me is interesting. Like Gary Vee is another one. He literally practices what he preaches. I know he's not for everybody, but I have read all three of his books now.
yeah.
And that's another one that I find fascinating, that I follow, and I love his message. And I realize, like a lot of these guys, when they get to this space and something that I'm actively practicing. So this is how this stuff translates to me and my world and my business and how I'm applying it, is I do not talk about my business publicly, in the sense of like, you'll never see my posts where I'm like, at Exit Built, we got a special going on today where you can get X, Y, or Z. I might reference stories of what I'm experiencing in like sales meetings and things
Yeah,
like that, but it's typically nuggets that I think would be valuable back to the world. And if you want to know more about my company, you can come to it. Now, I do I'm a big fan of branding, obviously, with my logo, and I branded every single one of my shirts. So I do subtle advertising in that sense, where
yeah,
you'll see it all over me. So it becomes synonymous with my content. But you have to go and actually do a little bit of digging on your own to find out exactly what I do through my
yeah.
content.
I think
Um,
what you're doing, you're kind of like qualifying people, I guess. Is that kind of what you're doing, or
in some regard, it's qualification, but also it's making it's understanding that, and I firmly believe this, that people don't get sold, they buy. And if you adopt that philosophy in the way that you market,
Yeah, it
You
only
realize that transfer of energy, like the actual purchase, there's a lot to that. There's a lot more to that than just buying something.
yeah,
And there's a lot more to it in the way of sales, especially in what we do, because we're building websites, we're doing lead gen. We're literally tapping the heart of their digital business. So there is a strong relationship where, like, if I take on a lead gen customer where we're providing leads, we're bringing them leads, I will not take them on for any amount of money if I do not believe that we can produce an ROI for them.
yeah,
I just won't do it. So
yeah,
that's something that, like, again, it's it's very relational. It's very relationship driven, the way that I operate my business. So that's why, to your point, yeah, I guess it does qualify in some regard because they need to do the digging on their own. But I also, like I said, just believe that people need to build that trust within you and trust that you are going to fulfill.
yeah,
And then eventually they could potentially become a customer. And the way that I'm growing my business is not to amass as many people as possible and convert them and flip them and make a ton of money. Mine is to bring back real tangible value back into the world to actually make an impact and actually help.
yeah.
Um, so to
It
do
always
that,
comes back, man. It always comes back. And that's kind of similar to like my philosophy as well too, and the way you explain it. And then I was already kind of following the strategy because I always like give a lot of value, and even if it had nothing to do whatever I was selling. Like I
right?
remember I was like selling real estate. I was like I paid for like I did all organic marketing. It was just like me lifting weights and talking about personal development, and then periodically I'll put up a sign about like real estate and everything, right? It wasn't like use me as a real estate or use me as a coach, use me as this or anything. It's like we're just out there just being productive, right? And if we're in the top of mind or anything, like people were like, "Oh, what does Sam Nang do? What does Danny do?" He's
That's it.
that's what the thought is that I want people in my mind. Oh, he sure did talk about something that really like stuck in my head or something, right? And then they're
Right.
like, "Oh yeah, he is always saying Peak Performance Academy or whatever, woo woo," you know. And then you're like, okay, he's connected with something, and then the curiosity, I think, helps as well too. I think the thing I like Alex Hormozy as well too. Like I love him, and he's very like what you say. He practiced what he preached. He's very similar to me as well too. Does that he literally like practice business and then he lifts weights and then just puts this on repeat. Like I do that almost every day. So it's very similar. It's very stoic as well too. And what I'm starting to see is a lot of people that have their philosophy kind of go inside their like work and their life and stuff. uh it's becomes more authentic. When I watch Alex, I was like, yo, he's very authentic. Like he talks about his failures, he talks about his success, and then he just talks about like, it's gonna fucking suck, but just don't quit. It's like that's his message. And then giving out free value. It's like when you talked about giving free value, I was like, I thought about Facebook. I was like, how long did Facebook exist before they even actually started charging for anything, even for like ads or like anything? I was like, they did that for free for so long. So sometimes when I get like uh think about it as like, is this all worth it? Like no, it's worth it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, that's, you're spot on. It was Mark's COO that really that turned on the ad machine inside of Facebook that generated them a ton of money. When he
Yeah.
brought her on, it was Lauren. I forget her last name, but she was kind of like the guru on that. And then I forget the other guy's name. That what's his name? He also writes a couple books, but he's the one that came up with the like button, right? It was originally going to be the awesome button,
The like button
and then it turned
that
into the
blew up
like
Facebook.
button. Yep.
I
But
don't know why this silly things you don't. That's how like internet works. It's like you. Why did the like button just like blow up Facebook?
it's the little things, man. It's user driven development, and that's the key, especially in the software space, right? It's being able to capture your users' data and then give them back what they want, right? And oftentimes, and this is something that's very true in business and very true in practicing a lot of these things as far as influence is concerned, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's about receiving feedback from the market mind. And we do it all the time. Like, I know we've talked about this where You're like, yeah, I'm trying this thing on TikTok and I'm seeing these numbers come back, right? You analyzing the data, views, likes, comments, engagement, all of that stuff. That's you testing out what the market mind is telling you. The market mind is the collective of the people that we are marketing to. And oftentimes that's what drives a lot of business, that also drives a lot of content, because we think we're always going to be the smartest people in the room when it comes to our own world. It's just the way that we operate. We're on a mission. We have something that we want to share, a story we want to tell the world. And we have to be able to be flexible and agile and adjust, because we might be onto parts of it, but the world is gravitating to something that we didn't necessarily see. And that's kind of bringing it back full circle to Marcus Aurelius's quote of the key to all victory lies in the organization of the non-obvious, right? Oftentimes, the things that we're doing, it's not obvious to us that it makes an impact,
Hmm.
but it's very obvious to the folks that we're talking to and the people that are consuming the content. That was like when it was the real aha moment for me is when I first started posting content, and I was literally just doing it for myself to just kind of use Instagram as my my accountability buddy, right? It was like,
Yeah.
I'm doing it again today. I'm doing it again today. And then that's when I had a friend come to me and they're like, hey, I just want you to know, like, the post you just made is the number two reason I just left my husband, because I was in an abusive relationship. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Like, and that's when I realized like the impact and the power of what I was doing. And then I was like, well, maybe I should do more, not to, you know, negatively influenced, but now it's like, okay, there is a positive influence. People do appreciate this. They are liking it. And even if it means that there's one person out there that I'm helping,
Yeah.
then it's worth my time. Right.
Yeah.
So,
It's worth
um,
it's worth teaching for sure, and it doesn't mean that you have to go onto like social media and put your face on the
no.
gram, but it's like everybody has an opportunity, and it's you have this intuition to teach. If you gone through life and you're out of survival mode, you're fairly out of survival mode, right? Well, actually, some of us are in survival mode, but if you're in survival mode, you can't really teach anything. So once you get out of survival mode, like when I was in like my trauma and depression state, I couldn't teach anybody, but I was seeking a lot of help from other people, right? So once you get past this, some people have gone through divorce, some has gone through traumatic relationships, traumatic work environments, war, right? uh Sexual abuse. There's these stories that we all have that we all don't share, but if we actually share these stories, it will actually help other people kind of develop their story into a strong story. The reason why my story is strong now is because I always listen to powerful people. People think that like I'm strong because, but it's like I always listen to people like Arnold Schwarzenegger, The Rock, very powerful people that's like Bruce Lee, Malcolm X, and stuff, right? So my thoughts were always powerful, even though I was feeling like my world was fucking like crashing. But at the end of the day, it was so powerful. When I got out of it, I was like, okay, there's a reason why I went through this. There's a reason why we go through life and suffer these trials and tribulations, and then we have like traumatic events. Is for us to get stronger and to be able to tell stories so other people could be inspired. That's the execution part, right? And when you said like about like how your message resonated with somebody and you didn't even know, I when I was first starting to put my content out there too, like I was at the gym, and a guy that I see at the gym regularly said that his sister saw my message and she was like extremely depressed because she had like gotten surgery or something. And he said she watched her stuff, and I didn't even realize, I never met this person. He said that he watched her and the mindset shift just kind of helped her get through this. And I was like, wow. So I'm reaching to somebody that I didn't even like. I knew the person at the gym, but his sister saw my message. I was like, wow. It's like you reach can be as far as you want. If you feel like you have
Mhm.
a good strong message, and I feel like I have a good strong message. I think you have a good strong message, and I think our message will. I think continue to resonate. You know, if we're sticking with just like being wise. I think wisdom right now, I think, is this currency, because if you could apply your spirituality, your personality into your work, it makes it a lot easier. And I think I talked about this in like my Instagram story, is like Danny and I don't have to turn on or off or anything. You know, we're genuinely Danny. I'm genuinely Sam Nang Man, right? I don't have to turn on like a facade of like work or not work, but
Mm-mm.
I am who I am. I'm expressing myself, and there's a certain level of like freedom and joy and happiness that brings me too. So, and that for me is like, that is my message, and that's Danny's message, and that's, I think it's always gonna resonate. Everybody's always gonna want
Yep.
to be happy, you know.
Yeah, and here's another good one too, and especially on that thread, right? Which is if you rewind back to like in your trauma moments, right, when you were at your lowest. I think a lot of people are maybe even in that place right now, right? Or they're starting that place, or they're coming out of that place. All of us go through it. I went through low moments, and if I could go back in time and tell myself during that low moment this one thing, this would be it, which is enjoy this low moment. Like absorb it, all aspects of it. Enjoy it, because this moment is your future story when
Yeah,
you of your success, right? And I think that it's hard to see that when you're struggling. It's hard to see that this is a positive thing that's happening to you when everything around your world feels like it's collapsing, right?
yeah,
And but it's so true. And if you look at any of these people that we talked about, any of their influence, you know, pick, it doesn't matter who, pick any of them. They've all got stories of kind of like the Phoenix story, right? Of rising from the ashes. They all have low moments. They all have struggles, whether it be monetarily or relationship or physical or whatever the case is. They all come from a pivotal moment in their life.
hmm,
And the people that are going through those moments right now, and if you're listening and you feel like you're going through that moment, for just a split second, smile and observe it and be grateful that it's there, because this is the moment that you're going to be able to talk about. And this is the moment that's going to enable you to go from toleration to teaching. Because
yeah,
at some point, when we overcome these low moments and we become better and we grow, we do pay it back, because it's easy for us to resonate with other people, and most people have good intentions. I do believe that. I don't believe
yeah,
that the bulk of humanity is ill-willed. Yes, there's always going to be foul players, but I think for the majority of the world, we all want something better for ourselves and for our close peers and relationships, right? And when you come out of a hard time,
hmm,
then all of a sudden, if you bump into somebody that's going through a hard time, you feel compelled to give back because
yeah,
you've been there and you can resonate with it. And
yeah,
I actually have a very real, tangible example. This just happened to me yesterday.
yeah,
So I had a guy come knock on my door, and he's got this, kind of beat up shirt and tie on. And he's an Ethiopian dude. And he's like, "Hey, man, what's your name?" I'm like, "Okay, I'm getting sold something. Whatever. I'll take the pitch." He pulls out this pamphlet, and it's laminated and it's beat up. He's been obviously going to a lot of doors. And he's a part of this program. It's a rehab program where he can sell magazine subscriptions. Someone sponsors him. He sells the magazine subscriptions. And if he makes a sale, he gets a commission. Turns out this guy was homeless for all of 2023. He came from basically, it sounds like he was in jail at one point for something prior to being homeless. And now this is his second chance. He's a part of this program,
hmm,
and he's a grown ass man just trying to sell magazine subscriptions, trying to pull himself into the new next phase of his journey, right? So I stopped him in his pitch. I wasn't going to buy a magazine at the time, and like I asked him to, like he gets like $50 for the subscription, right? And so what I did is I went in, I grabbed $100 cash, and I came back. Oh, and he also told me that he wants to start an Ethiopian food truck. So this is all to help him get to the next stage of his journey.
hmm,
So I grabbed $100 cash. I sat him down on my front porch and I was like, hey man, this is for you. And I handed him the $100. And I was like, and he's like, oh, what subscription do you want? I'm like, no, no, no. That's for you. And then I had my book. So I have a notepad. And this is something that one of my customers, clients, who was also one of my mentors, gave me 2 months into my sobriety, right? So when I went 2 months into sobriety, I was going to stop. I was like, okay, I was just going to do a 2 month hiatus, and then I was going to have drinks whenever I wanted. And he was like, no, Danny, you should keep going,
Yeah.
and you need to focus in on your business. So what he gave me was he calls it his 10-10-10, which is 10 statements of what you're grateful for, 10 affirmations, 10 manifestations. And he gave me literally his, which is to a lot of people intimate, right? Because it's like, this is what I want for my future. This is what I'm grateful for today. And this is what I believe myself to be, right? And affirm where I am. So anyways, I sat down with this dude, I gave him $100, and then I showed him my 10-10-10. And it was my chance to kind of give back to what was given to me.
Nice.
Um, and it was just an amazing moment. He was in tears when he left, and he was kind of on cloud nine. He's like, you have no idea how much I needed this right now. Not the money.
Yeah.
The money was just kind of like the nice part. I could have not given him $1 and showed him the 10-10-10 and had that conversation with him, and he probably would have still gotten the same amount of value.
Yeah.
But the money was a gesture of my time, right? So it was me giving not just my time in that moment, in that half hour that I spent with this guy, but that $100 was also a representation of the time that I've had, that I've learned, that I've grown from, for him. And I was like, look, man, go start that food truck. Let me know when it opens. Here, put this towards it.
Yeah.
You know,
I love that story, man.
and it
There's
was
a lot of times like that. We could all just take a moment and just give, if you don't have monetary value, setting aside just to chat with somebody and teaching them anything about mindset, like anything that you think could help somebody, that's contribution, and it makes you very, very fulfilled on the inside. And I think, it makes worth waking up. I think the story that you just resonated and shared is time and money. Those are things that we look at. We have to look at. If you want to be as best as you can and stuff. Sharing your knowledge. To me, sharing my knowledge and wisdom right now, to me, is the thing that I think is the most important. Um, as I'm building and creating value on myself and sharing that knowledge, that hey, Danny and I are both struggling as well too, but we're also in a part of learning and growing, and also teaching at the same time. We're both doing at the same time, right? I still have mentors. Danny still has mentors. He has coaches. We both coach each other. And then we also have, this is a good rule that I've used. It's like the 30-30, the 33 rule. Is that you have about 33% of your network that are mentors that are a few years ahead of you. And then you have about 33% of your network that are like in the same area of life as you, like you and me, and people in my community, that, and then you have about 33% of the folks that you are helping like mentor and grow. And that's a good way to kind of think about like a percentage of like the type of people that you want in your community. And that way you are, one, you're learning but also teaching at the same time, so that, for me, that accelerates the growth process. If you're both learning and teaching what you're learning at the same time, um, it's just things that I do to kind of help with my personal growth, and just sharing my knowledge to me makes me feel very happy and fulfilled. But
100%. And what's interesting too about that, and I love that, Sam Nang, is like, to your point, you could take one day and apply something new that you've learned from one of these spheres of influences, right? And like, if you go through all the different books and things that I've read, like another great one is Unscripted by MJ DeMarco. If you're on the fence of um, going into business for yourself, it's a really great book for that. And there's a lot of great things that he that he talks about in there, as far as breaking away from the script. So he calls the matrix the script, right?
um,
And it's about breaking out of that script and starting your own thing. And what's interesting about that, right, is like as you apply those things, you may not have gotten there yet, but if you're going through the grind, if you're going through these steps, if you are trying to become a better human every single day and you're doing these small steps every day, you're working on yourself, to your point, you can teach that even from a day's worth of experience. But what's really interesting to me is you start to, your empathy level grows
Yeah.
because you're going through it, right? Like if I think about where I'm at, even in my physical journey that I'm still struggling with, right? Like still going to the chiropractor, trying to get my back fixed, not working out every day, still working towards that. And if I think about what I'm going through in that mental struggle and what it's where I'm at as far as where I want my body to my physique to be, as I'm going through this day by day by day, and as I'm working towards this goal day by day by day, I now have an empathy for other people that are also going through their progress, right? And their daily, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the same focus. It doesn't have to be physical fitness. It could be health. It could be business. It could be relationships. It doesn't matter what it is. The people that are actively working day to day to day to day to day to try and become better, I now get it because I'm doing it, right? And I'm trying to become better every day. So I now can relate to those people and I can have empathy to what they're doing. And because of that, I'm able to have a much more powerful conversation with those people. And it's not necessarily one where I'm mentoring or being mentored, but it's almost like a dichotomy of that, which is if I can relate and they can relate, we have a common ground to stand on, and the relationship grows into a positive manner, right? And then we both can learn from one another. And that's
Yeah.
something that I think is so fascinating. And that idea of like what you said with like 33% being that sphere of influence of where you want to go, plus the peers, plus the people you're coaching up, right? Your peers are the ones; those are your soldiers, your frontline soldiers that you're going to battle with every day,
Yeah.
so you can bounce ideas off.
Yeah, and you gotta have your network kind of like that, and unfortunately, anything that's not within that like sphere of influence, they're outside of that. I think we get stuck a lot in trying to stay, and I think it's brave of you to actually talk about alcohol and your sobriety and stuff, because that's something that even I wasn't really a big drinker or anything, but I talked about like quitting drinking, and that actually was a very interesting topic. I don't know why people ask me a lot of questions about like what happened when you quit drinking, what did you do, and everything. So I started to elaborate a little bit more. So I think maybe we could definitely have a whole you know podcast about like sobriety and how it does help with like your personal development and like your thinking and stuff. But
100%.
yeah, but shit, I totally forgot what I was thinking. I'm
Well, let's we're getting close to time, so let's wrap it up with this. So what are you currently reading right now? What's the topic? So I already explained what I was reading. What are you currently reading right now and the overarching topic?
um so remember I told the audience that I made like a spiritual breakthrough. So all the books that I'm reading now, so all the books that I read in like personal development and business books, I'm not rereading them. I'm just kind of like thinking there's like an unlearning process. My brain kind of works funny, but what I'm studying and reading now is yeah, I could show who it is. His name is Dr. Joe Dispenza. Um, he mixes a lot of philosophy, science, theory, health. So he's basically explaining spirituality through like medical terms, so it makes sense. So basically, what I'm doing is like I experienced like a spiritual enlightenment, and now I'm reading him to kind of be able to explain it, so I don't sound like a cuckoo, you know.
Interesting. No, that's cool, man. And I think that's so true, like the unlearning process, right? Um, you have to unpack this stuff to make it your own.
Yeah,
And in a lot of regards, like, whether Sam Nang, you tell the world, hey, do X, Y, or Z, well, that's what worked for you. And everybody's their own unique human being, right? So X, Y, or Z, you kind of have to unlearn some of that to get to the core of the lesson that you can then apply and consume and use yourself,
yeah, that is a
right?
big part of philosophy. It's there's a learning side, there's an unlearning side. Like when you look at like yin yang and stuff, there's always like an opposite. That's what philosophy does help. It just helps you get a better understanding of one, the world, one, yourself, right? You ask these questions that you might not even know that you should ask. So that's why I study so much philosophy, just to help me continuously growing. And I just stumbled this book because I was listening to another person coach me on his topic, and I've been reading a lot of like this is a weird word. I never even heard of it. So when I looked at it, I was like, I never heard of that word. So I'm gonna read it, but it has universe and consciousness on there. So I was like, I think I read an article that was like that I really liked. It was basically explaining how reincarnation works through like metaphysics and stuff. So it's interesting. Uh, I can't use all the technical terms, but I could translate it. That's basically what I my goal is if I could learn something that's very complicated and simplify it, and then use analogies. That's kind of what I try to do when I'm reading books that I'm trying to learn. But that's how I typically read it. And sometimes if books are like too complicated or too boring, I'm not so stuck on reading the whole book. I could put it down uh, and then come back to it. So I don't like try to stress myself out with like the reading. So I'm always, that's how I read books. People read them all differently.
Yeah, no, that's I think that's definitely insightful and definitely worth taking a look. So, I think for kind of closing notes and thoughts on this for the audience that's listening, right? We can make book recommendations all day long, and we could make spheres of influence recommendations all day long on things that we've liked and things that we've used and applied. But the key there is the application, right? And I would there's a big I've seen this personally where there's this gap in between people that are trying to become better, right?
Yeah,
One side of the house is trying to consume as much knowledge as possible to prepare themselves to start.
yeah,
The other side of the house has started and they're trying to get better as they're growing. The one who started will far surpass the person that's still sitting back and just consuming knowledge, consuming knowledge, consuming knowledge. Because to your point, they're teaching as they go along. They're teaching themselves. They're telling their peers, hey, I'm trying this. They're trying new things.
yeah,
They're literally growing. So when you're looking at your influence stack, if you're the books that you're reading, regardless of what they are, I strongly urge you to start applying, start doing and practicing the things that you're consuming. And in the process of doing that, have conversations with other people, because oftentimes you're going to end up be teaching that, right?
mm-hmm.
But it's to me at least, I think that if I, especially going back into coaching, right? Like when I was a coach, I was riding alongside of my athletes. I was snowboarding right next to them. And I'm telling them about little things and tips and tricks to try. So as we're going towards the jump, as we're going towards the park, we're trying these things on our board and trying these different pressures points on our edges and things like that. So that way, when they get to the point that they need to hit the lip and they need to make the jump to do the crazy trick, their feet are already familiar with what they're doing on their way to that launch, if you will. And so if you're in the process of growing yourself and taking yourself to the next level, realize that there's a million and two steps that you can do prior to the launch that actually is the biggest part of the launch that you don't even realize. And those are all those small little steps and incremental things that you do and apply. So that's my kind of key takeaway from all this is like,
Yeah,
just start practicing, try
yeah.
it.
On a quick note, yeah, what he just said is like when you have knowledge and then you take action, that becomes self knowledge, right? If you don't take action, it's just knowledge in a book. It just becomes 7 habits of highly effective people, right? But if you actually do those actions, that actually reaffirms that. Then 7 habits of highly effective people is you now, right? You is 7 habits of
Right.
That's it.
Right.
It's self knowledge is that's what we're seeking. It's not just knowledge for knowledge to not do anything, right? If you do it, that becomes yours. Now it no one can take it away. That experience or that knowledge and that teaching moment becomes yours. It's a connection that you made in your brain. But yeah, I think good way to end the podcast. Um,
And let's wrap up with one last little thing, just because this is what we do on Fridays, and we've both kind of set forth our goals. You've given me some, I've given you some. So just to wrap up where I'm at with that. So since you gave me that goal, I've been going to the chiropractor.
yeah.
I found out that I probably have a was it like a bulging disc or whatever, like
Uh-huh.
right around my L4 on my back. And I also realized that my body posture was totally out of whack, like totally fucked.
Did he give you
So
like little things to like and pillows and stuff, recommendations?
yeah, so like I have like I got a posture brace that I use when I'm at my desk. I've been actively like working on pinching my shoulder blades back, and like he's like the big thing he was like is like big chest everywhere you go, big chest, big chest.
Yeah,
So like I'm literally walking taller now.
it's like
And what's
you walk
interesting,
like this versus like this,
yep,
right?
yeah,
Yeah,
I was literally like this has been my posture for my entire life, and now
yeah,
I'm here,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
So what's interesting, so where I'm at in that journey, so what I have to start doing, and like he even told me like this is a non-negotiable, like you need to start this. And he was like, and I told him about you, and I told him about the podcast that we do. He's like, oh good, your buddy's a bodybuilder, tell him that you need, and you've literally put content on this, he's like, you need the demon back, you need to work on your back. Yeah, straight up, bro.
Like
He's a bodybuilder too.
yeah, it
So
really is.
that's
It really is. Like that posture he's telling you. There's like more. If you like see coaching shoes is like this, all you gotta do is like this, right? So this is now of a more of a natural process where the shoulder is back. But yeah, it's gonna help you as well too. Like when you're lifting a little bit heavier weights and stuff to have it in a proper form, and then having the pillows and everything, and just eventually it will become you won't have to think about it and stuff. So the
right.
lift and stuff, everything should become second nature. That's the goal of like fitness, of not having like there's some people that like track what they eat and write down everything. I'm not one of those person. I'm just one of those person that just keeps all the stuff in their head. I think it's more efficient that way, where you actually don't have to like think all the time. You just do it.
Yep.
It's more efficient.
So
But that's what eventually is gonna happen with you. But that's good. And how about like the physical exercise? Or you're doing that? Are you doing anything where like you're doing more walking or getting more steps in?
yeah, so like yesterday we biked to the store with the family, and like definitely getting out and about. I'm also getting out in the middle of the day now, which I wasn't doing. I'm like stuck in my office normally all day long. So like getting out and taking nature breaks, doing that. And now my primary focus is chest and back. So I'm trying to get into chest and back and trying to get into an alternating schedule of that daily to just start to strengthen what I'm working on in the chiropractor. So I've invested monetarily there. I'm going 3 times a week. I'm getting all the pops and the
Oh, you went
cracks.
not. I went
Dude,
every morning.
he was like, your back's fucked.
Oh, really?
So he's like, because he was like, yeah, he's like, you didn't have to tell me that you used to be a professional snowboarder. He's like, I could have told you out of the gates. Like my hips were, when I first started, my hips were like shifted and twisted,
Yeah,
and I was like having terrible sciatic pain. So like at least my hips are like level now,
yeah.
and they're starting to work. So like yeah, so that's my big thing is like
Wow,
strengthening back, strengthening my core really is the primary focus right now that
yeah.
I'm working towards.
That's good.
So
Eventually, I think the best equipment for like a home exercise, if you're trying to like make a next upgrade and anything, I think it's a kettlebell set.
I
Um,
got two. I got a
to
25 pounder and a 35 pounder.
oh, okay, yeah, kettlebells. I think it's probably the most functional, versatile, and is also if people have like kettlebells versus like a barbell, and like your gym or like your office right there is real small. But the thing is, like
Yeah,
kettlebells, you could take outside and start swinging it. You start correcting your posture already, and it's not gonna beat up your joints. I've switched from as I've gotten older in my training where I'm not because when I used to CrossFit a lot, I was getting banged up, right? Then I started switching over to kettlebells, so it's not as hard on your joints. So that's if that's a recommendation as well too. And I don't think it's gonna uh holding your same posture while you're lifting weights and stuff, that's gonna help translate as well too. So now you're
100%.
yeah.
So I got one for you,
Yeah.
and then going through the weekend. So we've talked. I know I've seen a bunch of your content. I know you've ramped up the content, which is awesome, and you're being consistent. So that's awesome. So
Okay.
hats off to you. So here's
Consistency.
the next phase of your journey with this. I don't know how much you're doing this already. Maybe you're doing it. I haven't. Obviously, this is a little bit harder for me to see. But in the way of building community, you need to start to engage who your potential community is. So my challenge to you moving forward now
Hmm.
is find you're already consuming other content, comment, like and comment on other people's posts. And
Okay.
don't do the spam thing of like follow me, but actually engage the post with thoughtful commentary. And I have a little hack for you on this on how you can spread your word even larger,
Yeah.
and you can tap into other people's marketing dollars without you having to spend a dime. And that is commenting on sponsored posts. So anything that you see that's an ad, if you comment on that post, A, you're boosting the engagement of the ad, so you're reducing the cost per click for that actual content.
Uh-huh.
Um, and B, you're going to be seen much larger, much wider, and a much broader audience because they're paying for that content to be distributed. So
Yeah.
your message also gets distributed through the comments if people are
Ah.
looking through the comments. So every ad that you see that's relevant to you, that's relevant to what you want to do and the audience that you're trying to curate,
Like business.
leave a very thoughtful comment.
Okay. Damn. That was a nugget right there, dude. I think I've heard somebody say, I think it might have been Hormozy about like liking other ads and stuff like that, right? But that part of like commenting on there is is valuable. One, because sometimes when you goes on those ads and stuff, you got people that like comment that aren't real, like they're not real accounts, right? But now I have this little verification check.
Yeah.
So I was like, I was like, when I first got the verification check, I was like, what the fuck is this? Why am I paying $15 for this? But I was like, all right, so I could figure out where it makes sense. So commenting on there something thoughtful, and then they can see that this is actually not like a bot, right?
Right.
And then it's
You're a
like,
real human.
and then they're going to like my website or just following. I've been noticing other people. Uh, I've been noticing a lot of follower or consistent following, new followers on Instagram. The thing that I'm struggling with is so Instagram and TikTok are very similar, and the content is very similar. The only thing that is I'm so stuck on Instagram because I'm so used to putting all my content there. Now I got threads on there. Now I got TikTok. I got the posts and I got reels and stuff, which is like I think it's my central, but like switching it over to TikTok, it's like it's such a hard switch for me. But I could see when I do post, there's a good amount of like views from there as well too. So I'm not sure if you think I should start. I'm not sure if you know about like sharing content on Instagram and TikTok might be a good strategy or not. I don't know.
So the way that I like to do that, right, is first off, the platforms inherently don't like you linking outside of their platform, right? So they want you to like that's why like Instagram and Threads, they're like, yeah, share it all day long. They even make it very simple for you to share it, right? Because it's keeping them within their network, their sphere of influence, which means they're likely to trigger more ads. They trigger more ads, they make more money off of you, right? So that's why they want you on platform. So when you cross pollinate your content,
Yeah,
that's why you see like you'll see Hermosi do it, you'll see Gary Vaynerchuk do it. It's teasers, but you have to give them a reason to be there. That it can still be on brand, but slightly different in your content. And look at it this way: like, imagine if you had, imagine if these were speaking engagements, right? And you had one group, and the nature of your message is going to resonate the most with them if you talk about lifestyle.
yeah,
Another group, the nature of your message, if you talk about it, is entertainment,
yeah. Is that the word
right?
segmentation? I know what you're saying because
Sure.
you're like
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. You're
using it like
segmenting out your platforms.
yeah, you're like categorizing your message in certain things. That's why I started to understand. It's like YouTube
Yep.
is like 10, 15 minutes. Instagram is like a reel or Instagram story. It's you're formatting that content I guess more formatting, right, versus the format. Uh,
It's formatting. It's also the nature of the message, right? So again, like if you're you need to have a holistic truth. You're not. It's not trying to like kind of whore your content out just to do whatever it is to get attention, right? It's more of like understanding. Okay, what are the parts of me that like I know you literally have told me before that you clear out your living room so you can dance. I know you like to dance to like get yourself jived up and like get yourself going, right?
yeah,
TikTok's obviously a very great place for you to share that kind of content, right? And that's one part of your story. It's not your story, it's one part of it.
I like it. Okay, it makes sense.
Instagram brings another part of it that you do, which is that more that personal development and driving home a lot of these kind of nuggets of, you share a ton of content on your stories, you share a ton of content on reels, very similar to like kind of the stuff that I'm doing was like, hey, I'm doing this, try this. It's bettering my life, right? So like now all of a sudden, if you have like your TikTok segmented out to be that kind of like, this is how I amp myself up.
Right,
These are
right.
kind of the fun things that I do to entertain myself, to get myself motivated. And then Instagram's like, here's my philosophy, like my lifestyle philosophy on how I can become a better lifestyle. Facebook, community driven. YouTube is searchable, right? So YouTube is where it's like I'm providing more like how to, what is,
Mm,
who is kind of content, right? So that way when people are searching it, they can see it. So like that's the way to kind of look at it. Threads is similar to X in the sense that like I use X as my public notepad,
I call
right?
it Twitter.
Twitter, I've been trying, man. Like I'm like, all right, respect to Elon. I think he saved something.
Threads is
It was
Twitter.
like,
I was like, this is exactly what Twitter is.
yeah.
And then I also
So
noticed that you were saying, let's put a thread on it. I was like, what? And I was like, is that where you got it from? Like the threads from Instagram, or is that just something?
no, that's I got that from the military term. So the idea is like a thread hanging from a sweater. If you pull
You
it,
put,
you'll unravel the sweater.
yeah, yeah,
So it's kind of like peeling back an onion, like layers of onion. It's just a
yeah,
term of phrase.
yeah. It's
But
funny.
that's how I would look at it, man. But
Uh,
the I don't overcomplicate it, right? And that's that. So if you think too much about it, you'll overcomplicate it for yourself.
yeah,
Do what naturally feels like what feels natural to you and what's easy. You do have the pillar platform of Instagram, so start with that. And I like to always look at it like when I'm producing content, I'm going to produce for my pillar content. So my pillar content right now is Instagram.
yeah,
Um, I know I need to make LinkedIn more of my pillar content, and I'm working. I just need to fucking do it. I don't have an excuse. But once I produce on Instagram, that inspires me to then take a nugget of what I produce on Instagram on something else that's the same kind of content, just in a different light.
yeah. I think
So
about that. I think about
yeah, so like if you're like, but yes, but the big thing for you, man, now engage,
engage.
engage with other people, and it doesn't have to be influencers. But engage with real human beings out there and leave thoughtful responses. If you can ramp that up to even if you get to the point where you're able to start to get like 100 comments a day, 200 comments a day, where you're just sitting around at the end of the day, scroll through your feed, find anything that's relevant that you like, and leave a thoughtful comment. So, like a good example, like I did this, I watched an ad, and it was actually where I got hook value payoff. I got it from that ad.
Mm.
So
I think
I
I
was
know.
already doing stuff like that.
Was it there's a guy that's been blowing up on the internet too. I see his stuff. His stuff has gone pretty viral. I can't remember his name, but he sells to like personal trainers. He sells like coaching programs for like personal trainers and stuff. But yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. I've seen that strategy work really well, or I've heard that strategy before. Having somebody repeat it or say it again is very good. Sometimes you don't. Even me as a coach is like I don't jump on it right away. Especially it's like I've been spending all my time on Instagram. It's like okay, this TikTok. I know people have been saying get on TikTok, get on TikTok. You're gonna like good on there, but it's like it's that mental bandwidth that we're trying to play around with.
100%, man.
Yeah.
100%.
Okay.
So,
I think we got some good content this week
yep.
for the audience and to keep us on track.
Yeah, man. And next week we'll have our first guest. Our guest, we were supposed to have one today. he had to call out. He got sick, but
Yeah,
hopefully he's recovered, and we'll get him on here soon. We're going to start bringing some other folks into this. So
yeah.
cool. All right, man.
All right, I'll chat with you
So
later.
to wrap it up, oh, FIFO, flow in, flow out. Episodes released every or Monday morning at 6 a.m., Friday at 4 p.m. So right there at your morning commute, hop on, sharing insights about everything from personal development, things that are affecting our journey, things that we're doing and making our lives better. Sam Ning and I, again, just started doing this. We're in episode 10. Didn't know each other, well, knew of each other, had a Zoom call. Next call, we started the podcast. So here we are today, 10 episodes in, double digits.
That was good.
And yeah, feel free to tune in, subscribe, join. If you guys have ideas, thoughts, let us know.
Yeah,
Happy to touch on more things. If you're interested in being a guest, let us know. And we're just going to kind of keep plugging away at this thing and see what happens. There's no, I don't think that there's a major agenda aside from Sam Ning and I becoming better human beings by mentoring each other through this process too. And hopefully
yeah,
it makes an impact on you guys.
yeah. I think this is a great outro, and you summarize it well. And yeah, Danny did a great job. Just want to say, good job.
Appreciate it, bro. All right, guys.
We'll be in touch, or I'll be in
All right,
touch.
we'll see you. Yep.